In fact, the moment when he was talking, I thought it was my minister speaking, because he knew so much about the work that we are doing, the National Flood Control Program. So National Flood Control Program, we are into channel improvement, desilting and dredging. So these are just examples of some of the works that we are doing. You can move on. Some of the work that we are doing. And then the Coastal Protection Division. So yeah, just roll it. So just a cross-section of project that we have implemented. And then the Coastal Division also, we are into construction of groins and in construction of revetment. And one of the key aspects of what we do not just protect the coastline against erosion and tidal flooding, we also take advantage to boost the local economy. So if you look at that one on the top left at Anumabu, we have constructed a breakwater that is to facilitate fishing activities in the community. And we've done similar in Commander, and there are others that we'll be doing in the future. Let's move on. Now, another aspect of our work, so I've talked about the National Flood Control Program, I've talked about the coastal protection works. Another aspect of our work is what we call the priority project. So Garrett is a typical example of a priority project where we look at end-to-end solutions. And this, you will notice that we have a Garrett group, or Garrett looked at as a project, but Hydro works closely with the Garrett project. It's a specific focus, it's got a specific focus on the Odo River Channel, looking at it from end to end. And this is dredging activities and then construction activities ongoing at Achimota currently. Let's move on. And then, of course, these are some of our installations. So again, with the flood early warning system that Prof. Kukweje talked about, Hydro is very much at the forefront, working with our partners, the WRC, the NADMO, and the GMET. And we, the data that we pick from these streams and these rivers is feeding into a model that has been built that would do the prediction, of flood, if there should be flood. So that's what we call the non-structural intervention. So we have the structural interventions that I've talked about, and then we have the non-structural interventions, which is the flood early warning system. So these are the impacts, of all the work that we do. I've already mentioned we're protecting lives and livelihoods and properties. We have the boosting of the local economy, and then another important aspect of our work, actually protecting national assets. As I said earlier on, the work that we are doing in Aboazi, the Aboazi Coastal Protection, is protecting the Takoradi Thermal Plant. And then the work we are doing in Elmina and in Cape Coast is also protecting the Elmina Castle and the Cape Coast Castle. These are very important heritage assets for the country. So we are doing all of these things. Are we doing enough? The question is, will the anchor hold? If we leave Hydro alone to continue what we are doing with the support of the government, will the anchor hold against the climate change impact that we are seeing, against the sea level rises that we are seeing? Will the anchor hold? Well, maybe we'll all answer that question at the end of the presentation. Let's move on. So we have challenges. And perhaps because of these challenges, we may answer the question and say, no, the anchor will not hold. Maybe there are solutions to the challenges that will help the anchor to hold. Let's see. So we have a number of challenges. Let me talk through the challenges. We have a few of them. We have delayed payment of certificates, and I'm sure it will not be news to anybody that we have economic challenges, and therefore, what we have has to be allocated across all the sectors or across all the ministries, and that leads to delayed payment. We have a huge funding gap, and that is why the National Hydrological Fund is a game changer, I can say. A huge funding gap, about 6 billion. If we have to tackle all our drainage challenges across the country, we need about $6 billion. If we have to tackle the coastal erosion challenges that we have, Ghana has about 550 kilometer stretch of coastline. Currently, we have protected about 80, about 180 is okay, doesn't need protection. So we have 290 kilometer stretch of our coastline that needs protection, to protect the important strategic assets that we have there, to protect life, to protect communities, to protect all the livelihoods of people along the coastline. Now we work out that roughly we need another 3 billion to protect our whole coastline. With these challenges, with the anchor hold. Now, development control, it's been said earlier on, when people are building anywhere and everywhere, even if we should find that 6 billion and construct all our drains, if people are paving every square inch of their homes, if people are still dumping solid waste in our drains, we can construct massive drains, but if they are filled with rubbish, we are still going to be having flooding. If people are going to just build without taking any hydrological assessment, to see the impact of their construction on the hydrology of the wider area, we are still going to have challenges. So let's look at what some of these solutions that we are thinking about, or these are some of initiatives that we are coming up with to help tackle some of these challenges. So we are developing drainage standards. We're working with the World Bank to come up with drainage standards, including nature-based solutions. Because at the moment, we do not have any standards for nature-based solutions, and we will be actively promoting nature-based solutions. Early warning for all. We are working with the WMO. The earlier speaker talked about the flood early warning system, and it's not just going to be Greater Accra. Hydro has a plan. We have a 10-year development plan to extend early warning, and our target is that in 7 to 10 years' time, every city in this country, every town in this country should have an early warning system, so that if we cannot even eliminate flooding, at least we can minimize the impact by warning people ahead of time. Flood risk regulations is also another aspect that we are working with the World Bank on. When the flood risk regulations come, it will be mandatory for people to undertake hydrological assessment to secure permits, before they can construct. Then we have the public education. We are going to be, with the support of the minister, with the blessing of the minister, we'll be introducing Flood Awareness Week, where we would bring the nation's attention to the flooding challenge, and we would also be highlighting the need for people to contribute towards the hydrological fund to help undertake the work. The multi-stakeholder flood risk strategy. Hydro alone cannot deal with the challenges of flood risk in this country. We need all our partners, we need all our stakeholders, and that's why we're calling it multi-stakeholder flood risk management strategy. So that we know that the Lands Commission is not giving away lands in wetlands areas for construction purposes. Our chiefs are also helping us by not selling lands in wetlands for development. Individuals are also doing their bit. Everybody will have a part to play to deal with this flood risk challenge. Another dimension is the drainage master plans. In about 10 years' time, we project that every city, every town should have a drainage master plan that can guide development. Let's move on. So a lot of these I already talked about as I talked about the various initiatives. One thing I want to highlight is a very simple solution that every one of us here can implement in our homes: rainwater harvesting. Very simple. You just have to cut your down pipe and connect the flow into a water tank, and you are reducing how much water is being discharged from your roof and from your home into the public drain. So we would be actively promoting that, and I hope that people will take that up. The earlier speaker talked about the integration of climate adaptation measures, and it has to be part of infrastructure development in the country in general. Every ministry undertaking infrastructure projects should be considering this. Let's move on. So some policy recommendations. We have already seen the launch of the Hydrological Fund. It's a very key policy initiative. Strengthen regulatory framework, we've talked about that. And then the public-private partnership, very key. We know government alone cannot address this challenge for us. And then the community-based solution, having the community part of the solution is very key. And that is why today we have someone from civil society joining in our discussion. Let's move on. So that really brings me to the completion of my presentation, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. We shall have 3 interventions from the floor. Please raise your hand. The ushers will come to you with the microphone. Ushers, please. We have a hand here, another at the back. Chairman of Bench, how many minutes do we have, sir? Chairman, shall we proceed on the full 30 minutes?
Thank you very much. My name is Edwin Krumah from Ministry of Works and Housing. Yeah, I want to know from you the collaboration between your agency and then the road agency in terms of construction and management of these drains. You know, I know they also construct drains, so I want to know the relationship between the two. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lukman Salifu again. Doc, I hear Prof say it and you repeat it, that going forward, we want builders to have hydrological what? Certificate?
Assessment.
Good.
Be certified, yes.
Good. You see, I have this thinking, because I'm from the sanitation sector, and the fact that environmental health officers who are supposed to be in every metropolitan municipal district assemblies insist that every house should have a toilet, yet we've not built toilets. I kind of get a bit jitters if we say we're going to make people have hydrological assessment. In my mind, if we know that a house is 100 by 100,000 meters square, if it's 70 by 100, 7,000 meters square, if 70 by 80 is 55,600 meters square, we as hydrological would have done the assessment on area-wide basis, so that we say, if you live within Achimota, if you live in a house which is 100 by 100, make sure that, say, 20 meters square or 30 meters square is untiled. Okay? So that means that if you've built your house already and you haven't reached that limit of living 50 meters square or 20 meters square or 10 meters square, you need to do that. So it affects not only new buildings but also existing buildings. What about that?
Take the last intervention from here.
Thank you. Let's call a spade a spade. A big underlying problem is indiscipline. And frankly, if we don't address the issue of indiscipline, all these investments will be undermined. And I think we really need a national discussion on how do we curb indiscipline. You know, if we don't do that, we'll be here in the next 5-10 years still talking about these things. Really, we need to get to the core, and I like, you know, the panel in particular to look at how do we curb indiscipline.
Thank you very much. Doc, you have the floor.
Right, thank you very much. So on the issue of collaboration with the road sector, yes, we do have collaboration with them. I'm sure we can strengthen that further. In fact, for the very reason why we have the Ministry of Roads and Highways represented on the board of Hydro Authority, because where we have issues around the undersized culvert, you know, where we have issues around undersized drains, we end up getting flooding, and when we get flooding, roads suffer, because the longer water stays on road, the weaker the pavement becomes. So it is in the interest of of both parties to collaborate, and we are strengthening that. In fact, a number of occasions they have brought their designs for us for review. A typical case is also the Obechebilamte interchange. When the ministry was building or came up with a design for that structure, we also, as part of Garrett, we're also looking at the Kaneshi, you know, Dr. Buzia Highway street or road, and we fed them with the details of our design. Otherwise, they would probably have built a much smaller drain than we needed under the Garrett project. So that is a typical example of the collaboration that helped. So the drain that they built is by our design, and we are going to continue under the Garrett Kaneshi Lot 1 project. Then, with respect to living areas or sections or part of the land undeveloped, I agree with you. The education is very important, because when people are developing their land, they want to develop every square inch of the land. They want to maximize the space because, of course, of the value of the land. If people understand that if you leave some area and you landscape it, it actually brings multiple benefits because nature-based solutions bring amenity benefits, it brings ecological benefits, it brings water quality benefits as well as also the water quantity benefit. But because we do not understand these things, we are tempted to just develop every square inch of the land. Now, the point that you raised earlier on is in some other jurisdictions, you are left to decide how you want to control the flow from your land. So basically what we can say is that, look, your pre-development runoff shouldn't be more than your post-development runoff. Then it's up to you. Some places you have underground storage tanks to receive some of the storm water so that you can then release slowly into the storm water drain. So I think that ultimately that is the kind of direction we should be going. Even our developers, because they develop large vast of land and every storm water drop is entering in the public drains. We need to address those. And within discipline, I agree with you perfectly. And I think that's why I mentioned that the anchor will not hold if we continue in our usual ways. If even if we can find the 6 billion and the 3 billion, and we see sand winning, even along the coast, we see sand winning, project that government has invested so much to construct. You see sand winning to undermine this effort. If indiscipline continues, the anchor will not hold. Thank you very much.
See you. Since you're a very big man, there's one outstanding question. So please.
Okay. This is Kofi Akwa, Sub-Sahara, Export-Import, Ghana Limited. We see a problem. When water resources is moving, they don't move with sanitation. They are two brothers. They want to go and leave sanitation behind. And that is the main problem we have in Ghana. When you are doing your hydrology issues, at many of these points, you see that sanitation is not properly done, but you have kept your mouth shut. So let us see how you connect with sanitation for most of these flooding to cease. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very, very good observation. And I think the typical case that we can cite is the Garrett project, where the Ministry of Works and Housing is working with the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, and of course with the Ministry of Local Government. So the collaboration, the working together, the intertwined issues, we normally would say the twin evil of sanitation and flooding. And also, good observation. We are doing some of that. We need to do more. And I believe this forum will give us the opportunity to have detailed discussion around these things on how we collaborate. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Dr. John Kisi. And now, ladies and gentlemen, make welcome for a panel discussion on developing practical solutions for flood risk reductions, your moderator, Engineer David Kwetianyante, Executive Director, Ghana Institution of Engineering.
Mr. Chairman, Professor Victor Ajiman, Honorable Minister, Honorable Kojo Opon-Nkrumah, distinguished guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to today's panel discussion on developing practical solutions for flood risk reduction in Ghana. This event brings together experts, policymakers, community leaders, and stakeholders from various sectors to address one of Ghana's most pressing challenges, flood risk. Ghana, like many other countries, has experienced the devastating impacts of floods. These natural disasters have caused significant loss of life, displacement of communities, and extensive damage to property and infrastructure. It is critical to recognize that the effects of flooding go beyond immediate destruction. They impede economic growth, disrupt social stability, and undermine sustainable development. We must proactively seek and deploy solutions that are effective, sustainable, and inclusive. Today's panel is composed of experts and professionals in the fields of urban planning, engineering, community engagement, and environmental science. They bring a wealth of knowledge and experience that will guide us in exploring innovative approaches, best practices, and collaborative efforts to mitigate flood risk in Ghana. Our goal today is to emerge with a clear roadmap that outlines practical steps and actionable recommendations for reducing flood risk in Ghana. We must use the expertise and insights of our panelists and the diverse perspectives of everyone present to create solutions that are not only practical, but also sustainable and resilient. Before we proceed, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our panelists for their willingness to share their expertise and to call all of you for your participation and commitment to this vital cause. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists. First panelist, Dr. Kojo Yeboah, CEO of Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. Dr. Kojo Yeboah is a seasoned land use planner with over 24 years of experience in the public service of Ghana. He holds a PhD in Geography and Resource Development from the University of Ghana, where his research focused on spatial planning and urban governance. Next, we have Mr. Farouk Brahima. Mr. Farouk Brahima is a seasoned practitioner, consultant, and urban poverty fighter with over 20 years of experience. He holds a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Cape Town. His expertise lies in developing sustainable urbanization for a more just urban future. Engineer Richard Gamedeku is a board member of the Ghana Hydrological Authority. Engineer Richard Gamedeku is a hydraulic drainage engineer with over 19 years of experience in drainage design and hydrological modeling. He holds a master's degree in water resource engineering and management from Delft University of Technology. He is a principal consultant and head of drainage section of Associated Consultant Limited. Then we have Professor Kwesi Apiening Ado. Professor Kwesi Apiening Ado is the Director, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. Professor Kwesi Apiening Ado is a Professor of Coastal Processes and the Director of the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. He's also a board chair of the Environmental Protection Agency and a member of several local international organizations, boards, and institutions. Thank you very much. I think I can now join the panelists. Do we have microphones? Okay. So if you may permit me, I'll join our panelists. Hello? Hello? Probably I want to re-engineer our seating. Can I come there? So, Prof, you come here so I can see what's going on here. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me here. And may I start with Dr. Kojo Yeboah. The first question I want to pose to you to tease out the issues concerning drainage how does land use planning contribute to flood mitigation efforts, particularly in urban areas?
Thank you very much, my brother.
2 minutes.
Good afternoon to everybody here. See, whenever there is a flooding in Ghana, especially in our cities, the questions people pose mostly is, do we have land use plans at all? Or do we have planners in Ghana? Over the years, the Dental and Country Planning Department, now Land Use and Spatial Plan Authority, have prepared a number of land use plans to guide physical growth and development in our cities and the peripheral areas. So let me say that land use planning offers a lot of opportunities as far as management of flooding is concerned. But these plans should be realistic and acceptable by all. So the question that we have been asking ourselves, have we been able to involve the critical stakeholders in coming out with these plans? The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that plans that have been prepared by the professional planners always engage the critical stakeholders. But unfortunately, we have a lot of quack planners that have been used by the landowners, and they prepare these plans without recourse to anyone. So all that they know is to create what they call pros and then sell them to prospective developers. So what have we put in place to ensure that we curb this kind of practice in Ghana? It is through this that the government came out with the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act with a lot of enactments. So let me say that the procedure for planning practices in Ghana has already been established. So we now have the zoning guidelines and we have the planning standards that are guiding the preparation of plans. More importantly, the law is saying that if you have a land and you allocate the land to someone without recourse to an approved land use plan, you can be sent to a jail.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you also buy the land, the buyer, if you buy a land from a landowner or a chief, and there's no any approved planning scheme guiding the growth and development of that area, you can also be jailed. But how do we enforce this? The enforcement is very, very critical. And the enforcement mostly, lies with the metropolitan, municipal, and then the district assemblies. Because they issue the permits for prospective developers. And the law is saying that every development should have a permit before you can proceed. And issues have been raised about how people have been paving all their, all their housing areas. But the assemblies, when they issue permit, these are some of the conditions. Because they don't issue the permit for just issuing sake. They issue permit with conditions. So one of the conditions is that you cannot pave 100% of your land.
That's fine. I hope they are here. The municipal and district assemblies, we have reps here, so they can also contribute at some point in time. Right. So can I go to engineer now? Engineer Richard Gamadeku. Concerning the urban areas, what engineering solutions have proven effective in mitigating flood risk? And if you can give some examples from Ghana and elsewhere to support that.
Thank you very much. Integrated approach has proven to be effective in mitigating flood in the urban areas. And this integrated approach is what even the professor mentioned. That is a structural approach and the non-structural approach. There are so many of them, but I will just focus on three main, which is very dear to me. First one, as he also mentioned, as the professor mentioned, that is paving. Large areas are being paved all around, and this has really caused a lot of flooding, especially in the estates where we have a lot of impervious surfaces. All the runoff are discharged into already existing drainage systems. And this is really a contributing factor to flooding. And therefore, it will be appropriate that as going forward, a law should be put in place that they will regulate the amount of discharge that is coming from their sector by having a retention in their space for non-potable use. The other one is also areas where the land has been reserved for control of flood, especially closer to the sea, which we call the wetlands. Wetlands are now being used for residential purpose. People are filling it up and using it. It's a disaster in waiting. We have to stop this act because it is a place that peak discharges are attenuated and also stored. So if we don't control this, it will come to a point that even upland will be having flooding. And the last but not the least is coordinated designs. It has shown that over the years, designs are not coordinated. You have a storm drain coming, design well, only to come to a road crossing, there's a smaller culvert. These are some of the challenges which all these authorities has to come together and coordinate their design so we have effective design. Now, this integrated approach has been used in Singapore, Japan, and USA. So,
thank you very much. Right, thank you, Engineer. Mr. Farouk Brahma, let me come to you now. How can we ensure that flood risk reduction strategies are inclusive and addresses the needs of vulnerable communities? The vulnerable communities. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Listening to my colleagues, my brother, Dr. Kwejo, and then engineer, one of the things that comes to mind as a civil society person is that way back in 2011, 2012, 2013, Professor Clifford, he's called Clifford Amwaku, he came to my offices. He was doing a study on flood risk management something, and he interviewed us and my communities. One of the things we realize in communities is that I will focus more on urban floods. And in terms of urban floods, my experience would only be around communities and not the public assets. To that extent, I think the city of Accra, AME, has been very, very proactive in showing the way. And we have been working with the city in the last 2 decades. Accra Metro now has a resilience strategy. In that resilience strategy, we have worked with the city, and there are 2 pillars, which embraces informality, and the other one has to do with inclusive infrastructure planning. Listening to the CEO and everybody in this room, it appears to me there's a disconnect between what the policymakers say at the top and what happens on the ground. And I'm so sad that for the last 2 decades, I keep hearing the same thing from LUSPA, telling you that there are plans. But our frustration is that you go to slum communities, slum development and urbanization is with us. Surface and runoff waters are not being managed properly. Climate change is putting pressure on that. And my question is, who cares? Flooding has been with communities in the last 2, 3, 4 decades. Since 1955, they've been suffering floods and they always respond. My preach this afternoon is that can we begin to work more closely with communities for them to begin to come out with the data. You don't have the data. I challenge all of you in this room. The kinds of data you have is at that macro level, and you can continue to do it because it's very, very important. But at the same time, to bring change in the communities, you would require some granular data. And for us, CSOs and practitioners, we offer some helping hand. That how do we work together so that we can prioritize the strengths, the attitudes, and the resources of communities to solve this flooding problem. Until then, much of these discussions, very good, excellent, but it doesn't apply on the ground because the slum proportion is increasing daily. And you can't solve these problems when they are coming. Thank you so much.
Just a follow-up on that. Dr. Boache mentioned indiscipline. Indiscipline is within the whole society. It's not only amongst slum dwellers. Do you have any insight into that, how we can curb indiscipline in the community?
It's like, I remember way back, I was being interviewed by the Venerable Sonny Decker. Those of you who know Sonny Decker at the time, Joy FM, and the only news you would get was around 12, and Sonny Decker was right there. And he asked me that there are armed robbers in slums, and so they want to demolish Old Fadama. And I asked him, the armed robbers are in Jowlu. In fact, they don't hide in Old Fadama. When you want to get the armed robbers, go to those areas, the posh areas of Accra. That's where you find Jowlu. Indiscipline. Indiscipline rests with the powers that be and the politicians and the big guys in town. You are so indisciplined, you buy all the lands that are for buffer, and then you encroach, you encroach the whole land, and then you turn around and then blame the poor slum dweller who wants somewhere to make a living. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Prof, let me ask you, what role can technology and innovation play in enhancing flood management and risk reduction?
Thank you very much for the question. I think technology, innovation have a key role to play in managing flood risk. We realize that there are some emerging technologies, low-cost ones that we can use. You can talk about drones, for instance. We need to have a well-structured monitoring scheme. And using drone, you can have high-resolution imageries that you can use for your analysis and assessment. And from this analysis, you can really identify areas that need effective management. And again, we also have video systems. You know, one of my PhD students used video system to try and understand the breaking of waves, because high energy waves also cause flooding within the coastal areas. So we can mount video systems to monitor 24/7 how waves are breaking, how tides are coming up. We can even identify high tides and be able to know when and how, you know, storm surge are affecting the low-lying areas. We are also thinking of, you know, we can also think about models. Now we have very good hydrological models that can be used to, you know, come up and identify risk areas which will need effective monitoring. And again, moving forward, we can also think about effective and emerging interesting designs, building with nature. Should it always be hard engineering? No. How do we merge soft and hard engineering? That's a hybrid, you know, approach. So these are very interesting technological advancements and innovations that I think we can use in managing our flood risk in Ghana. They are cost effective, they are not very expensive, and they are things that we can use. We need to have a workable plan in terms of monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Yabua, back to you. Okay. What policies and regulations are in place to ensure sustainable land use and development in flood-prone areas? You've spoken about all these things. Mr. Brahma is saying they are not available, they are not aware of it. How do you make it available to the public so they understand what these policies or regulations are, how they work?
Thank you very much. If you look at the Act 925, it talks about committees, because we need effective coordination in the implementation of land use plans. So at the board level, which is the national level, we have all the institutions plus the traditional authorities represented. If you go to the regional coordinating councils, where we have the regional special planning committee, the regional minister is the chair of that committee, and all the sector departments are part of it, including hydro and then water resources commission. If you go to the district level where the action is, we have what we call special planning committees, chaired by the chief executive, and we have all the technical people as part of the committee, and also the traditional authorities, plus the assembly members. So it tells you that the law has established coordination, which is very critical and also participation has been mainstreamed into the law. And we have issued directives to all the assemblies telling them the issues that they have to do in order to ensure effective spatial planning in the country.
But how do you monitor that? How does the information cascade down to the ordinary man?
So what we do is that, for instance, last year we undertook monitoring of all the 261 assemblies to find out how they are really practicing spatial planning and also adhering to the Act 925 provisions. And our report is ready now. It is not very present. For instance, the law is saying that permit fees should be paid after the granting of permit. But you go to some of the assemblies, they receive the permit fees out front. So if you receive a permit fee out front, that means you have tied your hands at your back. That means if anything goes. So whether it is good or bad, you have to approve it. And the implication is that if I pay a permit fee out front, that means you have granted me the permit and I can go and develop. So these are some of the issues that we have discussed with the minister, and we have issued directives accordingly to all the assemblies.
Right, thank you very much. Engineer, how can engineering bodies collaborate with governmental and non-governmental organizations to implement flood mitigation projects like LUPSA and others?
Thank you very much. Leveraging on each other's strength and expertise is the way to go. And by saying this, government can collaborate with the engineering body through one partnership where they will come together to assess the flood risk areas, come up with plans and procedures to guide the way forward. Secondly, capacity building, where there will be capacity building in all sectors and stakeholders in the various fronts to direct in flood risk areas. And the other areas could also be research and development, expertise to be brought on board to come out with innovative ideas in order to mitigate flood in high risk areas. And also, I think collaborating in financing and resources mobilization is also a very key area. I know engineering body have innovative ideas that they can share with government and non-governmental organizations, of which they can raise funds to help in flood risk mitigation.
Okay, what about maintenance of infrastructure? That is part of the engineering function. They put up the structure, they have to maintain it. The little we have, it doesn't seem that we are taking good care of it. How can we benefit from the little infrastructure we have?
Yes, it's very true that you keep on saying that we put structures there, we don't maintain them, and it goes back to waste. Yes, there can be a collaboration or maybe a MOU signed between the engineering bodies and the government in that direction to help in that direction. We are coming up with innovative maintenance schedule so that the implementers or stakeholders will follow through.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to find out from Director of Hydro, will the fund also support maintenance of infrastructure, drainage infrastructure or not? It will. Okay, that's very good. Thank you very much. Prof, back to you again. Academia, how can you collaborate with government and non-governmental actors to bridge the gap between research and implementation of flood risk reduction?
Thank you very much. From where I sit, I see the gap widening, and unfortunately, it's simply because we are not collaborating. And I think we need to identify a common bridge to have an effective collaboration. And I think we should consciously collaborate. We've done a beautiful work. We do our research, we publish the research, but unfortunately, they are not ending up in influencing policy simply because that collaboration is not there. We all know about flooding in the Volta area, and we associate flooding with issues from the Volta River and high rainfall, and sometimes we look at storm surge and issues that are related to energetic waves, but we tend to forget about subsidence. So a work we did, we identified several areas along the eastern coast in the Volta area that are subsiding. And if your area is subsiding, then obviously flooding is going to be very high. We've published this information, but how do we communicate this to the stakeholder so as to enable such a very good information to be incorporated in decision and then policy making? What I'm saying is that we should consciously make an effort to collaborate. We seem to be comfortable in our silos, and it's not good. We are working towards solving a common problem, and the common problem is that the environmental challenges we are having as a country. So to me, collaboration is key. Now, how do we communicate some of these information and then be able to upscale some of the data that are coming from research? We need to also have intentional workshops between academia and governmental and non-governmental agencies. We need to have conferences. We need to have seminars. We need to have that dialogue. It should be intentional. And I think we also need to have capacity development. Academia is there. How do we make known to governmental and non-governmental agencies the emerging trends in flood risk management? I think we need to consciously make that effort where we can have capacity development, and then also we should also I think we should also have short courses. Yeah. And these short courses where we can, because it's something that will bring us together, where we can share the results of our research. So we consciously need to make the effort and collaborate and then talk.
All right.
We are friends, but we should go beyond friendship.
Yes, I think this conference is the beginning, and to provide us with the opportunity to have that kind of collaboration and working together, having that working relations with the government and non-governmental agencies. So now we come to the audience. You've heard what they've said. We want to hear from you, your contribution, your questions. If you have a question for any of them, let's know who you want to answer your question, and then we'll take that. Thank you. Okay, I see a hand up there. Yes, you. Now the hands are many. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead. No, the one in the black suit. Microphone, please.
Thank you so much, moderator and our honorable panelists. I want to reiterate what Prof said from the beginning. He explained how collaboration is actually needed. I want to know how the hydrology department and estate developers are collaborating. I'm saying this because the individuals paving their homes is just about 1%. But the estate, the numerous estate that we are having now, about 99.999% are paved, and they're creating a huge runoff. And estate developers, how are they working in collaboration with Ministry of Agric? This water can be stored and used for fish farming. You are solving one problem, yet you are using it gainfully. I know individuals who are fish farms in their homes harvesting the rainwater. I want to know, in this direction, what is being done. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll take 5 questions and then we'll get them answered. So your question, who do you want to answer this question? Director Hydro? Okay. Second question, please.
Please, mine is not a question. It's my experience. In Japan, rivers, The valleys are all given cemented. All rivers flow on cemented floor, not on ordinary soil. What happens here is that we allow rubbish to cover the valley, the floor. We allow rubbish to cover. So anytime it is raining, the little amount of water that comes, we see it covering the whole place. For instance, go to the Subin and see, it is covered. The same applies to our own Odo. And then go to the lagoons. They are all covered and even smelling. So go to the sea itself. You will see that even car tires are in the sea floor, covering what the fish should eat. And even we have spoiled their life. And when we eat fish from our sea, we think we are eating good food.
Okay, thank you very much.
So this is a comment I have to make.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman in white shirt.
Thank you very much. My name is Vincent Blah Kwashi. I am the president for Greater Accra Local Government Service Engineers Association. In the area of flooding, I have always attributed to two things. One has to do with the lack of planning, and then two, human attitudes. My question goes to the CEO, LUSPA. In the area of flooding, well, let me commend him for certain activities being done. But for me, I feel a lot more needs to be done in that area. In his submission, he made mention of the fact that there are a lot of plans in place. Now, the question I asked myself when I heard that is, where are the plans? Reference to the LUSPA Act from section 45 right down to 82. You will see spatial planning, special development framework. You say you're supposed to have national spatial development framework, regional spatial development framework, out of which you have district spatial development framework. Then at the district level, we are supposed to have local plans and structure plans. You Google right now, you see national spatial development framework. Come to the regions. The question is, how many regional spatial development frameworks? Because these are supposed to come one after the other. We are supposed to get the regional one from the national one, the district one from the region, and all those things are lacking. So the question is, where are the plans? You go to the MMDAs, what kind of local plans, what kind of structure plans are we using? Okay. I can tell you for a fact that most of the MMDAs are using Google Earth to determine the conformity of people's site plans before they are approved. So those are the areas that are lacking. Per the laws, LUSPA is supposed to provide the MMDAs with a technical bus stopping.
Okay.
Is it being done?
Thank you very much.
So I think that we also have to look at this area. Come to the human attitude. That is where we even lack a lot of things. We talk about a lot of technical, whatever, but our own attitude, for me, that is where sustainability can be much achieved. Because if we say maybe somebody is going to buy a land, the person looking at the land, the person's own attitude, if he says that, no, this is not a good place, I am not buying,
thank you.
That will go a long way to sustain us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we take a fourth and a fifth, and then we'll come for the answers? Gentleman in the tie. Yeah, here.
Yeah. My name is Ahmed Mama. I'm from International Union of Parents and Teachers Association. My question is that we are talking about contribution and royalties. I want to know if there's any, what is going to be the eligibility of this contribution, and who is the key driver, or who is going to be the key driver of this contribution?
Your question is not clear.
It's clear. I'm saying that it's clear. We are talking about, what do you call it, contributions. And now when we are explaining, we don't see who is the key driver and who is going to be the key driver of the contribution. And if there's any eligibility, let's take NGO, or you are NGO, and you are come to contribute, how do you come in? Now I think it's clear.
Gentleman behind you, yeah.
Thank you very much. I am Engineer Professor Mike A. Champon, the second Vice President of IET Ghana. I've attended a number of conferences, and it's like at every conference, we go through a routine. We come to present. At the end of the day, there will be a beautiful report circulated. Then the following year, if it's annually, we come back to go through the cycle without any tangible result or implementation plan. I believe we understand how the issues are, including the policymakers. I'm happy Dr. Ama is here, the minister and others. But my issue is that, see, we need policies, and that ought to come from government. We need implementation plan, enforcement, and also monitoring and evaluation to know how the policy is performing. If we are implementing our policy, because this whole thing we know, we have a number of institutions that are working in isolation. There's no synchronization. We need to bring them together or consolidate the laws, because they are bylaws. And I also ask myself, why are we having a conference like that without the Ministry of Environment participating? Talk about sanitation, hydrology, whatever, they're all about the environment. You brought employment here, but environment, key sector, I have not seen them. So I think what we should be talking about is how we enact laws, which are there. I believe the laws are there. The policies that should come from government, how they are implemented, the design of implementation, that a plan, how they are enforcement, monitoring, evaluation, so that we know how we are performing. If we are not able to do that, I can tell you this good initiative from the minister or the ministry, we will come back next year and we will recycle the same thing. We will go home and be excited. You see, the gentlemen there cannot solve the problem. They can only articulate their individual contributions. But if there is no entity to put them together, what the guy asks, who is leading the charge? It might be done that way. So I believe that we know the problem, we know the issues. Let's work on the policy, implement them, identify those who have to, if we need to synchronize them, consolidate all the laws into one, and use them to run the system, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Otherwise, I believe we will not get anywhere. We will come back next time and do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, we have 3 minutes to wrap up.
Right. So we'll answer the questions quickly. The first question was about the hydro department and estate developers. How do they collaborate? Is there any way they collaborate? Hydro department, Grader, can you help us with that? Do you collaborate with the hydro department at all? Not at all. Okay. So that will be work in progress. You collaborate going forward. The second one was about Japan. We heard the story. And then Vincent from the municipal authority, he said that there are no plans. So where are the plans? Regional plans, district plans, there are no plans at all. Yeah, Dr. Yeboah, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm surprised he is from a district, eh?
Yes.
And the districts, they are planning authorities. And if you look at the law very well, this technical subcommittee of the special planning committee are responsible for the preparation of special plans in the district. And he is a member of that technical subcommittee and also a member of the special planning committee. But notwithstanding, the law has outlined 3-tier planning model for us that he mentioned: the special development framework, the structure plan, and then the local plans. The special development framework is just an indicative plan, indicating the socio-economic policies in space. The structure plan will give you the broad land use basis, outlining the prohibited and then permissible uses. But if you come to the local plan, that is where the action is. The local plan will give you the dimensionally accurate plot sizes, which will guide investment in infrastructure. So the assemblies have the mandate to prepare these 3-tier plans. LUSPA, we have been able to come out with the National Special Development Framework in 2015. Greater Accra region, we have been able to also help them to prepare the regional special development framework. Western region, they have it in place. Ashanti region, they have it in place. And we have the Northern Ecological Zone from Northern region, Savannah, Upper East, Upper West, and the rest. They also have it. Fortunately for us, the Ghana Secondary Cities is also assisting the rest of the regions that do not have the special development framework to prepare this. But let me say that if you go to any of the districts, they are issuing permits. You issue those plans. And you are supposed to prepare the local plans to guide your investment in infrastructure. How are they doing it? Okay. But we are training them. We are collaborating with the local government service. We have now developed a manual for training, which was just read last week, and they are testing it at one of the assemblies. And very soon we are going to roll it out. And we are not just going to train only the physical planners, but we are going to train the technical subcommittee, because that is their responsibility. It is their responsibility to prepare the plans and monitor it, not just preparing the plans. Yes. So we may have the